So guys, this is my review for Fena Pirate Princess episode 8, and with that guys, let's jump right into this review of episode 8. Let's get it. So just like at the end of episode 7 last week, we basically rolling into episode 8 that everybody's basically focusing concerned on Yukimaru because remember, Belle was the one who shot him twice, once in his shoulder and once in his side. Want to say his lower left hip, and basically they are just like by his bedside. Fena is tending to his wounds and stuff like that. He's lying in the bed, and the episode, also the title of the episode is called A Knight's Vow. Almost forgot to mention that too, but throughout this episode, it was more just centered. It was really more centered around Shitan, Fena, and Yukimaru. And with that, guys, let's kind of dive into that whole, just everything when it's pertaining to these three characters here in episode 8. Now, as we know, over the last couple of episodes, we've been getting some very small, just flashbacks of Yukimuras Past and now of Shitan's past, where they literally show, this is literally Shitan standing at the doorway and Yukimaru lying in bed. So this is kind of flashing back for Shitan. He's literally going through it mentally because this is reminding him of this moment back when they were kids. I want to say this is when they first met, because they mention Yukimaru surviving the attack on the boat when he was a child, when Fena was there. So they mentioned the name of the boat called the Hope, and Yukimaru was like the only survivor, is what they were saying. So as you see, he's bandaged up. He was just really badly hurt. And so Shitan, he has this flashback of him seeing him here, at when they're kids, and we even got a chance to see a little bit of a younger version of Kei in episode 8, him carrying Yukimaru towards this room here. So the dynamic between Yukimaru and Shitan is just it's really strong. So you could tell that Shitan truly cares about Yukimaru, and of course we can also tell that Yukimaru cares about Shitan as well. Now, because the episode is more centered around Shitan, Fena, and Yukimaru and their current status relationship with each other, that Shitan, he had mentioned to Yukimaru about Fena being a witch and taking control of people's minds and stuff like that. He actually brings this up with the crew and talking to them, and Fena ends up overhearing the conversation where he's just telling them, like, Fena, she's a witch. She's using her mind control, stuff like that. She's doing this, and she's the reason why Yukimaru is in the position that he's in right now and what he's done. And all a couple of the other crew members are basically telling him, like, they're like, dude, like, we went up, we've everything we've done on our own merit. We've decided to do this on our own. Fena doesn't have any control over us. But again, Fena pops up and she overhears this, and she's like demanding Shitan to explain himself, and he basically says, like, he tells her, like, you're a witch, and she's like, how am I a witch? But he's like, you're a witch, this, that, and the third. But of course, they're going back and forth, and basically, one of the, I can't remember specifically who, but one of them definitely steps in and does their best to calm the whole conversation down or argument down, and then Shitan ends up leaving. But again, in this scene, he's telling her to her face that that she's a part of this witch cult and this, that, and the third. Now again, it kind of does. If we remember a couple episodes ago, episode 5, I remember, is when she seemed like she was under some type of spell and was being directed, where she didn't have control over her body. She wasn't cognitively there. So there's that. And is it because she's a witch? Is it because of something else? Me personally, from a viewer's standpoint, I have no clue, not sure. But maybe Shitan has a right to say what he's saying, and again, maybe he doesn't. Who knows for sure? But something is going on because he keeps bringing up this witch stuff and this cult and stuff like that. So just something is going on. We just don't know what. But as we continue moving forward, we see a couple of other things happening throughout episode 8. And this is why I'm continuously loving the anime a lot. Episode 8 episodes into the show, we get another flashback of both of basically Kei, Yukimaru, and Shitan. This is when they're younger, but at the same time, Yukimaru and Shitan have grown up a little bit, but they're practicing and stuff like that. So what we find out here in the episode, per this past these past memories, is that Yukimaru is basically better than Shitan when it's pertaining to wielding a sword, right? You can kind of tell that here in this flashback in episode 8, that as they practice, Kei is basically teaching them how to fight, and he basically explains to Yukimaru, like, look, like, you do you know why you've defeated him? It's because you are not allowing fear to rule you. You're basically you have control over it, while Shitan does not, and which is why he continues to fail against you. And it's just something that you have to remember moving forward to keep holding on, continuing to practice fighting with him. But per this past, we also get another part of the flashback, and it is this scene here between Yukimaru and Shitan. And the other part of the flashback is basically, this is where we get the chance to see Shitan practicing using the bow and arrow. Now, he had a conversation earlier in the episode with a younger Makuba, and he basically explained to him that the arrow that he has in his hand, and there were other arrows, Shitan picked up this specific arrow. That Makuba basically told Shitan that the arrows that he was looking at were they were basically like dull. They couldn't be used, basically. And Shitan was just saying, oh, this sort of kind of sounds like myself, and he just still decided to use it anyway. And as we see in this during this scene, Shitan is practicing, and he's shooting the arrows at the targets, and they're just not hitting. And Yukimaru just basically tells him, like, even though you're trying to do it this way, why don't you do it another way? And that is direct the arrows in the way that they're trying to go. So basically, how we saw way back, episode 4, episode 5, where when he was shooting, the arrows would make a curve. He even does it in last week's episode 2, back on the boat to save Fena. When he's practicing in this scene, he actually does indeed make the arrow go and swerve in a specific direction when he fires the arrow. So very, very great scene here, guys, that I really enjoyed between these two back when they were younger, in this past memory. Now, as we move forward in the episode, Shitan and Fena have a heartfelt conversation. Fena is basically like she's sort of going off on Shitan, but she's also like, just like very emotional in this scene, that she's basically telling Shitan, like, look, if you're claiming me to be a witch, if that was the case, I wouldn't be using this bow and arrow. I would be using my magic power like a pro. And she's saying, like, you're supposed to be my teacher. You need to continue to help me teach, because if you're my teacher, I shouldn't be a sloppy student when firing these arrows. So I need you to continue to be my teacher so that I can stop being a sloppy student when it's pertaining to shooting these arrows. And she was just like really being open with Shitan. Again, Shitan at the time prior to her saying this was telling her that she needs to go get away from him. But again, like I said, Fena is just basically like saying to him, like, you know, I want to be here with you all, everybody, all of us, Makaba, Suki, all of us. Um, Yukimaru, I want us, you know, I want our friendship to last forever. That's basically what she said. And then that's when, of course, Shitan accepts this conversation in its entirety, and he even like mentions like Yukimaru silently under his breath, in understanding that, you know, Yukimaru definitely was not under some spell. He was definitely out here to save Fena because it's something that he wanted to do, and so, you know, he ends up telling Fena that we need to, you know, we need to go so I can indeed continue to train you. But then that's when we get this really great scene towards the end of episode 8. Then we get this very great scene here between Fena and Yukimaru. They're having a chat up here on this roof, and they're just talking about, you know, well, Fena's like kind of like apologizing to Yukimaru about several things. You know, Yukimaru is basically saying like, you know, look, I'm gonna ride with you through all of this. You know, I made a promise to Franz, her father. You know, I made a promise to you that, you know, we're gonna get you to Edna so that you can be able to figure things out. You know, Fena was basically talking about like she doesn't know who she is because one moment she was, you know, Fena Houtman, then the next moment she was Fena Shangri-La, then the next moment she was, well, now, you know, now she's being called princess or witch. She doesn't, you know, she's trying to figure out who she wants to be, but she doesn't know how to go about it. But Yukimaru is basically telling her like, you know, like, look, if you can figure it out, I'm with you. I'm gonna be here by your side. To the point, guys, to where he falls to his one knee here. He was grabbing his injured left shoulder, and, you know, of course, Fena showing, you know, wanting to make sure that he's okay, gets down with him, and then he grabs her hand, and he just says to her, like, look, like, wherever you go, whatever you do, whether you go somewhere, I'm gonna go, or if you stop, I'm gonna stop. I promise you right here, right now, that I will never again let go of your hand, ever again. And he actually kisses her hand, and of course, that causes Fena to sort of kind of pass out after he gets up to leave. But I really did indeed enjoy this scene, guys. It was just really great. Plus the music, once again, guys, the music in the anime has been just really great, really beautiful, and the music here in this scene was really beautiful, really composed and great. But, you know, once this scene ends, then we go back to Belle and his ship, and we see this going on. Now, I definitely want to say this. I said this back in episode 1, but I definitely want to reiterate. Belle has been one of my favorite characters of the anime, even leading into episode 8 here now. Still wondering about his own past when it's pertaining to Fena and her mother, specifically her mother. But definitely one of the things that I am loving about Belle here is the fact that he can paint. Like, you see that fruit basket sitting on that chair there, he is literally painting a literal replica of that fruit basket. It looks really dope. But he is here. He's painting. A carrier pigeon pops up on his window. I don't know if he notices it or not, but he does indeed in this scene. He calls out to Helena, Fena's mother, and he says, you know, not too long from now, we will be back together again. And that pretty much, they were zooming into the ship, and they basically zoomed out, camera zooming out from the ship after the rest of the scene ends. And that's pretty much the end of episode 8 for this week, guys. I really enjoyed this episode, guys. Really did. It was really good. Really great, actually. I really did indeed enjoy episode 8 today. But what did you all think of episode 8 when you first sat down to watch it the first time? Leave some comments in the comment section below. Let's talk about some things, guys. But other than that, I will talk to you all next time with more Fena Pirate Princess. Peace, guys.